Sega has been known for many great characters and franchises throughout the years. Sonic the Hedgehog, Phantasy Star, Puyo Puyo, and Virtua Fighter, just to name a few.
Yeah!
But there are certain games and franchises that just don't get the love they deserve. The forgotten gems from consoles past, like a shambling ghost haunting the house no one visits. These specters of the past include forgotten series such as Nights into Dreams, Vector Man, or Echo the Dolphin. But I'm trying to look a little bit past the horizon. Today we're going to look at 5 great Sega games that you probably haven't played, let alone possibly even heard of. Just to vary this list as much as I possibly could, I decided to stick to one game per console generation. So we'll see a nice gambit from 8-bit all the way up to the PS3. Let's start with the earliest of these games. Far back, 35 long years ago. Note! Not to out myself as being old man Sega or anything, but this game came out the same year I was born. This often overlooked Master System puzzle game is known as Doki Doki Penguin Club Uchu Daiboken, or Thump Thump Penguin Land The Great Outer Space Adventures. Here in the US, we simply just called it Penguin Land. The premise was extremely simple. You push an egg vertically down the screen from top to bottom until you reach the end. If you make it fall farther than 3 blocks down the screen, it shatters. Beyond this, there are several different variants of blocks beyond just standard ice, which you dig up to make your egg drop farther. Such blocks as cracked ice, which auto-drop the egg as soon as it lands on it, rocks which you can use to drop on enemies to kill them, and tubes that either drop the eggs, or the penguin himself, depending on what the facing picture is. Beyond the perils of shifty ice and gravity, there are Gangaus. Yeah, you know, Gangaus. Or, polar bears to literally anyone ever. There are also cameels. Not camels, cameels. It's a bird, alright? It's a freaking bird. And it flies to your egg and cracks it if you take too much time. So you're on a bit of a timer. That's about it, honestly. It's not an overly complicated game. Who'd have thought back in 1987? It's a nice little platform puzzle jaunt with an interesting space theme about penguins. The neat thing about this game, though, it's got 50 levels of varying difficulty, but it also has a level editor. Yeah. In 1987, this was insanely impressive. You can save up to an additional 15 levels on the single cartridge of your own custom stages. That's really cool. If you haven't given this one a shot, try it out for a few levels. It can get pretty addictive. Oh, also, this dude's name is Overbite, which seems like a cruel joke, you know, considering it's a beak. He doesn't have teeth. Would you look at that box art? This screams 80s fantasy movie to the max. I'm talking about stuff like Conan, Lady Hawk, Beastmaster.
Well, how about a little help? Come on!
Alicia Dragoon fits right in with these adventures. Coming out on the Genesis in 1992, the game follows Alicia on her quest to save the world by defeating Baldur and avenging her father. Baldur, many years ago, devastated the Earth with his weird fantasy magic, and then he goes into a cocoon so he can pupate, I guess? Is he a caterpillar? I don't think he's a caterpillar. I don't know, this plot is all over the place. Alicia Dragoon is a side-scrolling adventure game where you shoot lightning, platform, and defeat bosses. And aiding her on this quest is a interesting familiar system. You get to choose between 4 familiars on the fly. The dragon, who will spit out fireballs. The boomerang lizard, who throws its wing like a boomerang. The thunder raven emits a blast of thunder across the screen. And the will-o-wisp burns any enemies that come into contact with it. You are free to switch between these at any point in time with a single press of a button, which adds some interesting strategic elements to a genre as basic as this. I mean, normally it's go right until you hit a goal, or fight a boss. Alicia can also grab power-ups to enhance both her magic and her familiar's abilities as the game progresses. With a deceptively deep number of options for your fights, You battle your way through 8 stages of enemies until you reach the cocoon which holds Baldur. And after your epic encounter against him, the floating continent sends crashing down from the sky, sending Alicia flying to her doom, until your best friend squad shows up to bring you back to safety.
Dragon, lizard, bird, best friend squad, saving me from falling to my death. Best friend squad, and literal fucking fire. We got each other's backs until I accidentally let you die. That's my bad. Best friend squad.
It may not be the most polished or tightest controlling action game on the system, but it's certainly one worth playing for those that haven't given it a shot. From fantasy adventure to something slightly more grounded. If you consider anime alt history World War to be more grounded, which I do? Question mark?
Ooh, senpai, get to the trenches, yeah.
I'm sorry. I present to you all Valkyria Chronicles for the PS3. Of all the games on this list, this is the only one that received enough games to properly be called a franchise, but it very nearly wasn't. In fact, the original game sold so poorly that it warranted Sega to move the next 2 sequels as Japan-only titles. On the PlayStation Portable, it sold a pitiful 32,000 copies here in the US in its first month. It sold nearly triple that amount in Japan in the same amount of time. So what exactly is Valkyria Chronicles? Well, it's an interesting mix of tactical turn-based strategy, akin to something like Fire Emblem or Tactics Ogre, with third-person shooting, almost in a vein of a less complicated Gears of War. The perspective flips from an overhead map in command mode to an on-the-battlefield action mode where you're over the shoulder. You can move in real time up to the amount of movement your character has, and then perform actions or attacks using technique points. You can hide behind cover to gain bonuses, or find objectives on the map to get tactical advantages. It feels unique in all manners. Also, the visuals are gorgeous. They sit in a place strangely between cel shading and a watercolor painting. It's almost like the backgrounds are beautiful painted arts with these cartoon characters brought to life. There's also a nice visual flair that they have going on, almost like a manga, and it even includes onomatopoeia for actions, such as rada 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 rada. Story-wise, I don't want to spoil too much about the game, because that is a large part of what makes it so great. It does have to deal with ancient precursor races, and genetic magical powers, and 1935 European soldiers in a conflict similar to the World Wars, although it is its own unique setting. The war is all over a rock called Ragnite, which is a multi-purpose fuel source and mineral, almost as precious as oil, but as potent as coal when it comes to being a power source. You play as 2 characters primarily, Welkin Gunther and Alicia Melicott, 2 soldiers on the Imperial forces trying to protect their homeland, along with their regiment, Squad 7. I leave the rest up to you to find out, because there are enough fun twists and turns throughout the story, and great standout character moments that I wouldn't want to ruin them for you. Check it out in its original form on the PS3, or check out the remastered version on PS4, PS5, Switch, and Steam. We move now from anime warfare to gigantic eggs. Can you imagine the omelet this beast would make? Man, could really go for some breakfast right about now. In the peaceful world of Morningland, the chicken inhabitants go about their daily lives until the Dark Raven and his army of crows decide they are done playing second fiddle to a bunch of cocks. Stop snickering. Bringing about an eternal night to Morningland, it is up to you as Billy Hatcher to don the infamous chicken suit and free the chicken elders imprisoned within their golden eggs. This is all completely serious. This is a real game. This game exists. A GameCube exclusive that came out in 2003. It's a bit of an odd duck. Chicken. It's a 3D platformer, mostly revolving around Billy rolling eggs until they are ready to hatch. Inside of these eggs, there are power-ups, items, animal companions. Besides rolling, Billy has a bunch of interesting techniques that he can perform with the egg as well, such as slam attacks, charges, dunks, interesting platforming sections, and even projectile attacks. You travel levels hatching eggs, defeating enemies, and reaching the Dark Gates in order to fight the crow bosses within. This game really needs to be played to be believed. It is a bizarre and fun platformer from Sonic Team, and it was firmly planted in between the time of Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Heroes. And you can kind of see the influences there, both from the early Sonic Adventure titles and even some early ideas that would manifest later in Sonic Heroes. It's goofy, it's over the top, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. I'd hate to say it, but in many ways it reminds me of the god-awful Balan Wonderworld, at least in its aesthetics and its general look. But my goodness, is this just a way better game to play. For the many people that missed out on this one, and you have a GameCube gathering dust in your closet, seek this one out. It's excellent. Just let me have this one. Oh yeah, Dreamcast time. You know I couldn't go for a list of great Sega hidden gems and not bring out my favorite system. It was difficult to narrow it down to a single game, but I so rarely hear about this one that I had to shine some light on it. Timestalkers is a pseudo-sequel to Landstalker on the Sega Genesis, and actually features characters and themes from other earlier titles done by Climax Entertainment. Technically, this is the finale of a vaguely connected trilogy of games, the middle part being Dark Savior for the Sega Saturn. Timestalker opens up on a moonlit clock tower in the forest, and we find our hero, Sword, thinking back to memories past. Can we talk about this name for just a second? This is like naming a mechanic wrench, or like a chef knife. Like, what? After being nearly murdered by a robot wielding a battle axe, man if I had a nickel, he travels into the tower and is transported through time after opening an ancient tomb. He awakens in a strange town made up of buildings, lands, and people that are brought there from various places and points of time, stuck into some sort of strange mishmash. It is your destiny to protect this small world and figure out exactly what the hell's going on. That's where the real fun of Timestalkers comes into play, the characters. You get your typical, brash love interest, you get your wise old man, but then you kind of take a bit of a left turn and you get sassy pixies, sheep butlers, and hulking lion human man? This guy's ripped. The bulk of gameplay outside of talking to people around town are turn-based battles and dungeons. You find items and equipment, enter into grid-based fights with combat menus, collect monsters alongside. It's almost like a Pokemon ally type system. You have capsules for monsters you fight, and you can capture them when they get low enough in hit points, and then you drop them in battle to fill out your party members, getting a maximum of 3 in your party. Outside of these dungeons, you can raise and train them as well to strengthen their powers and gain new abilities. I've really only scratched the surface of what this game has to offer, with some fun curveballs are thrown at you like right after the first hour that I don't want to spoil. It's about a 10 to 12 hour adventure, and it's a really solid JRPG for barely anybody talks about. If those kind of games really fit your style, this one deserves more attention. Also, go play Landstalker on the Genesis and Dark Savior on Sega Saturn. This really is a completely overlooked trilogy of great games for Sega that I never hear people talk about. Landstalker a little bit. If you want to see another episode like this, let me know in the comments below. Also, you could let me know some of your favorite hidden gems. There are, believe it or not, games from Sega that I haven't played. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you know when new episodes of Book of Genesis, Suffering Circuit, Control Magic, and all of our great tabletop content drops. For a full calendar of events, you can check out ControlAllCrit.com. I appreciate the time, guys. Have a good one.